Hey everybody, it's Ken Davenport. Guess what? It's Thursday. We're here for a very special episode of the Producer's Perspective live from Korea. Tonight, up-and-coming director, she's really not up-and-coming anymore. She has really arrived. Sammi Cannold, Vita at Sydney Center, Endlings at the New York Theater Workshop before the pandemic shut it down. And I'm going to spill the beans. She's doing Joy for Me, the new musical Joy. We're here to raise money for the Actors Fund. Please give us some likes, share this stream, and we're going to hear all about what's happening with theater in Korea right now. Hello, everybody. I'm back, and so are you. And it's Thursday night, and we're doing a very special episode because, frankly, when I was speaking to Sammi a few weeks ago, I was like, what are you doing? How are you dealing with all this? Have you left your parents' house in Westchester yet? And she said, yes. In fact, I'm leaving the country. And I, of course, everyone who's traveling, you start asking all these questions. Like, where could you be going? Are you going to Vermont? Are you going to Idaho, somewhere to hide? No, I'm going to Korea, she says. That's right. This is what the up-and-coming artists do, or the actually arrived artists do. She's going to Korea. I had so many questions. For those of you who don't know, Korea, and Seoul specifically, has an amazing theater community. There are like hundreds, Sammi will tell us more, but there are like hundreds of theaters in Seoul. And she's going there to do like this very super secret project. We can't talk too much about it, but let's just say she has a very unique perspective, or will have a unique perspective, on what's happening with the theater there and just what's happening there. I want to know what happened when she got off the airplane. She's quarantined right now. She's like, she can't go anywhere. She's trapped. And we're going to hear all about it. So we're going to get to that in just a few moments. Hello, everybody. How is everybody doing today on this Thursday? Hi, Madeline. Good to see you as well. Thanks for coming back. Mary Alice, how are things in LA? What is happening out there? Tell everyone to wear a mask, for goodness sake. Things are popping all over this country. So please, please stay safe. Whatever you're doing, stay safe. I just saw this town meeting where someone said we're supposed to be wearing masks and people in the audience actually booed. I don't understand this. Someday they're going to look back and be like, what was I thinking? Why don't I just put on a mask? Anyway, welcome to all of you who are watching on replay as well. We know a lot of you tune in after the fact. This is our 64th episode of the Producer's Perspective Live. So I am thrilled that you're all here, and definitely go check all those replays out. They're all right on that video page of the, oh, shoot. Sorry, you didn't see what just happened there, but I just lost visual. Oh gosh, come back. What's happening? Where'd everybody go? I've lost everybody. Okay, I'm back. Oh God. Anyway, I'm back. Sorry, you didn't even know, but I'm still here. Anyway, so go ahead and check out all those replays. Reminder that we are here for the Actors Fund. And in case you didn't know, we are live. That's why we have technical difficulties like that. But you know what is not having a technical difficulty is our donation button. Or maybe it is. Maybe you should just try it. And you know, we're really having, what we really want to test and make sure it's working, if it will accept a $100,000 donation. It's really, we're just unsure about how it's all working. So go ahead, a couple of you, just try that out. Just give it a shot. Hello from Ohio. Hi, Melanie. How are you doing tonight? A couple things to mention. We are here about the Actors Fund. Sorry, it's Thursday. I'm a little off my game. I don't know what day it is or what time it is. It is Thursday. We're here for the Actors Fund. I did that already. Don't forget, we are getting a lot of feedback, great feedback on this. I just put this into my the chat here. This link that Mary will talk about as well. We did this 3-part video series about things that are on your mind right now, including, by the way, safety, the issue that we're going to talk about tonight with Sammi. We're getting some really great comments on it. You'd be jumping into it late you get video 3, so it's going to be all out of whack. But I want you to check that out if you haven't signed up for it as well. It's been great. We got some great people to chat and help us along. I posted a blog today or yesterday about 2 words that I don't think any should exist for any business anymore. I'm not going to tell you what those words are. You have to go check out the blog. And I've got a blog coming tomorrow with a few choice words for Governor Cuomo. That's all I'm going to say about that. I will say this. I'm probably going to get in trouble for writing this blog. That's what I'll say. I'm probably going to get in trouble. But that's what I like to do. And you know who else likes to get in trouble? My next guest. That's why she's in Korea. Please welcome to the live stream from Korea. It's 9 o'clock in the morning there. Sammi Cannold. Welcome, Sammi.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Greetings from.
It is 9 a.m. Yeah.
It is 9 a.m. Yeah, you can see the light coming in through my window, my one window to the outside world, here in quarantine.
My first question is: did you have kimchi for breakfast?
I did not have kimchi for breakfast. They bring 3 meals a day here, and they're actually fabulous, and they range. There's a lot of kimchi, but oh yes, that picture is my dinner from a few nights ago. It's bibimbap. It's quite good, but you can see they give you a variety of things to choose from, so it's very nice. But it's interesting also because sorry.
Let's get this straight. We have a little bit of a delay, hence because you're coming from so far away, I assume, or it just may be my internet connection, and also my monitor is freaking out. So, but let's just start with this. The first thing that we noticed that Korea does much differently than the United States. You are on quarantine there.
Yes. And
they have sent you to a place which was supposed to be an army barracks. Is that true?
Yeah. So the way that it works is if you are coming into the country from anywhere other than Korea, you have to quarantine for 14 days. And if you're coming in with a visa, you can self-quarantine at an apartment or like at a hotel that's designated as a quarantine hotel. But because what I'm doing here came together rather last minute, I don't have a visa. So I fall into a category of people who have to be government quarantined. And I know somebody who was government quarantined 2 months ago. So I reached out to him and said, you know, what was the process like? And he was government quarantined on an army base. So I was fully expecting for that to be what was going to happen to me. What happens is when you get off the plane and you go through like hours and hours of procedures, which are so impressive and like designed to keep everybody safe, you get on this bus and they don't tell you where the bus is going. So I thought I was going to an army base, but I didn't know if we were going to drive for 5 minutes or 5 hours or what. And then the bus pulled up to a Hyatt hotel and I was like, wow, this is amazing. So it's a Hyatt that they've converted into a government facility. So there are like, video cameras all through the hallways. There's the lobby of the hotel is like all corded off. It's like, it's a bit, dystopian in a way, but the process has been so impressive. And now I'm in this room and there are about 10 times a day in the loudspeaker in the room, a voice comes on and says, hello, this is the Korean government. We just want to remind you that if you leave your room, you may be deported. And yeah, and sometimes it's that announcement. Sometimes it's like, as a reminder, you only get 6 towels. Like, but it just it's fascinating, and I'm the adventure of being in this room alone has been like already so interesting.
So we're going to get to that because I'm sure you've got like 16 different show ideas about what takes place in a room like that. But in fact, knowing you and your immersive style, you probably have a little show going on.
Sure. One
So
woman.
let's go back to the airport. So you land. First of all, how was the plane ride? Was that, it's 13 hours on a plane, or so. I've been there a few times myself. It's a long plane ride to be thinking about what else is on that plane. Was it Korean Airlines? Was it
Korean Air? And I was very lucky because there was nobody sitting next to me, nobody sitting in front of me, and nobody sitting behind me. So I felt like, in a way, I was 6 feet away from people. So of course, airflow doesn't work that way, but for peace of mind, I felt good about it. And particularly because I was so like preoccupied with, are you not supposed to eat for 14 hours? Like you shouldn't take off your mask. But as soon as I was like, oh, there aren't people within 6 feet of me. And then I saw other people taking their masks off and then they bring you food on the plane. So I was like, okay, well.
Oh, they had food, right.
Yeah, I guess we're eating now.
Well, the other thing that I sat down with someone today, very properly social distance, by the way, and we were talking about travel, and he's like, you know where the worst place is on these planes? And I was like, where? He was like, the bathroom. So I just don't pee for 6 hours. And this is the guy that has to fly cross country. So he's like, yeah, I just don't drink water or coffee before. And I was like, okay, good luck.
14 hours, I don't know.
You're not going to make it.
My mother, who's very protective, just like dumped a lifetime supply of wipes on me. So I brought them into the bathroom and spent like a very long time wiping everything.
Yeah, my wife did that before the pandemic. She like, I have to give her so much credit because we'd get on a plane and she would wipe everything down, and me being a guy and just being like, what are you doing? Does it really, you really have to do that? Okay, right. I'll do it for you. I'll do it with you. And now I'm like, oh my God, you're a soothsayer. Like you do exactly, you're Tiresias and Oedipus Rex. You're like seeing, anyway. So you wipe everything down, you get there, it's not too bad. You land in Korea, then what? So
then I went through about 4 hours of procedures at the airport to get, it was wild. And I say none of it critically in the sense that like, it was all necessary to make sure that I was like not going to be a danger to this country. So it included, the normal immigration customs situation, but then you also have to go through a procedure where you submit numbers of the people that you're working with in Korea. They get on the phone and they call those people and say, do you know Sammi? Is she like indeed coming to work with you? And I had to get tested in my nose and in my mouth. And yeah. And it was my first time getting a COVID test, and I am not particularly good at those things. And when they did the one in my nose, I stepped backwards because it's not particularly pleasant. And they were like, because you stepped backwards, we have to do it again. And I was like, okay, fair.
And this is such a small detail, but did they speak English?
Yes and no. It was interesting at the airport initially, like most of the checkpoints that I went through, they didn't speak English, and the Google Translate app really saved me because I would like type in what I wanted to say. And I've been to Korea once before, and I used this then. I would type in what I wanted to say, and then I would show them the translation on my phone. And also the app is so amazing now because you can take a picture of writing in another language, and then it'll tell you what the writing says. So I was able to take pictures of signs as I was going to understand like which line I should be in and things like that.
Wow. Shout out to Google. They really need it these days. So it's good. Okay. So you go through 4 hours of this testing and contact tracing and all this stuff. Any other strange surprises or anything at the airport that you were like, I didn't expect that?
You have to download an app that is about track and trace here. I actually had to download 2 apps, and every morning in quarantine, I fill out the app to say these are I'm not coughing. I'm not having a hard time breathing. This is my temperature. And they give you, I brought a prop over. They give you this box, which has like all sorts of PP in it. But it comes with a thermometer, and they say, you know, every morning you're supposed to take your temperature. And then every night, the only time that I see a human in these 14 days, because the food drop off is contactless, is when at around 5:30 every evening, someone comes to take my temperature. And that's the only human I see, and she's always in a hazmat suit, and I like wave at her and I'm like, hi.
It's mind-blowing to me in so many ways. So you have to take your temperature in the morning with a thermometer that they gave you.
Yeah.
And then they come personally, a hazmat suit woman, and she takes it with the little gun.
Yeah.
And this is
when that happens.
And this is the government quarantine. This is not the self-quarantine.
Yeah.
And it's because, remind us again, the government quarantine is anyone that is what has to be government quarantined?
If you don't have a visa, you have to be government quarantined. If you get a work visa or a tourist visa, I don't think they're giving out tourist visas right now. If you get a work visa, you can go like stay in an apartment that's, you know, if I think it has to meet a certain number of qualifications. And then I have friends who are in a hotel that is like a government recommended quarantine facility, but it isn't overseen by the government in the way that mine is. And like there are some interesting differences between it. Like, for example, the one that I'm in, you can't get anything pre-cooked brought to you. So like, even if you had friends in the area and they were like, I'm going to drop off something, you know, that it's not allowed. But like in the non-government facilities, you can order takeout. You can, like, you know, there's some interesting differences, but
it's just
the number one, I'm grateful for the Wi-Fi. That's just, you know,
oh my gosh.
good. You know, but it's been perfect.
It just makes you go like, why can't we do this? Why can't we have an app that we give people at the airport? We're like literally here in New York, and like, look, thumbs up to Cuomo. He made this, like, you got to fill out a form and I'll make you pay $2,000 if you don't fill it out. But it's like with a number 2 pencil or something. Like, you're getting an app at the airport. You have to fill it out. They're taking your temperature twice. It's not that difficult.
Yeah, and I think that like it's so much of it to me is about like enforcement, you know, and like I was talking to somebody yesterday who said that when you quarantine in Hawaii right now, you can self-quarantine, but they call you every morning to say, like, just checking that you're like still in your house. So it's interesting to compare the different measures that countries are taking, but I think, you know, this is pretty foolproof. You know, even if I, for some bizarre reason, was trying to mess up the system, I don't think I could. You know, it's just, and they tell you like you can't smoke in your room. The first day I got here, they were like, just so you know, somebody smoked yesterday and they got deported, and I was like, okay, like I don't smoke anyway, but like.
Not like college, you can't get away with that stuff anymore.
I know.
I mean, this is amazing. And, you know, I spoke to Sharon Cassav at the Really Useful Group, who was on the front lines there. She's the one I did this conversation with in this video series we did. And she brought up a couple things that I thought were fascinating, and some of which you may not have been able to experience yet. But one, she said, one of the reasons they're so good, because it's easy even for me to be like, why can't we do that? But this is not new for them. Right? This is like, they've been through this in the last 20 years. They've had other viruses, right?
Yes. And in 2015, there was a large situation where they like developed a lot of these measures. And I think it's also just culturally, like, hygiene is more of a national priority. And I think, you know, it's one of the things that Sharon talks about a lot, and I've had to sort of put the lens on for myself that, like, as much as we want to say that what's going on here is implementable for us, the situation's not comparable. There have been 289 deaths in the entire country. So it's like, we're in a, and that's because their response was early and their response was spectacular. And I think that, like, we have so much to learn from them, but it's not a one size fits all solution, because we're just such a disaster that it's not even,
I was Googling cases in New York and Florida and Arizona and California before this call, and I just really got depressed. It was really not something I advise you to do before sleep. So have you done shows in Korea before? Have you done anything in Korea before?
I've been here once before, for a show, kind of. I directed this play, Endlings, at New York Theater Workshop and the American Repertory Theater, and I came here with Diane Borger, who's the executive producer at the American Repertory Theater, before we did that production, to do research on the play, because it's set in Korea. But I haven't made theater here. I've researched theater here.
And so you're there. I know we can't get into too many details about the super secret quarantine project of yours, but we will soon enough. But you're there. You're there to look at the response, right, of the theater community, because they're up and running now, yeah. Right?
It's remarkable, and I think that, particularly what Sharon, as you mentioned, and Phantom have done in being able to run throughout the pandemic is heroic. And I think that, one of the things that when I talk to friends about, what I'm doing here, and is that I don't think a lot of people realize that that there are many musicals that are going to be running here this summer. None of them are running on a principle of social distancing. Social distancing is not a large component of South Korea's approach to COVID. I mean, it was so interesting when I got off the plane. Immediately, the lines, unlike the lines at JFK or whatever, weren't socially distant, and my brain was so conditioned. I was like, I'm supposed to be 6 feet apart, and then I was like, oh, actually, like, that's it. Social distancing isn't a huge component of the approach here. Hygiene is the center of the approach, and clearly it's working. And I think that in terms of, like, what Phantom did specifically, what is so amazing to me is that, when they had two company members test positive back in March, and it's astounding to me that it was only two, because if you think about, this group of people all inhabiting the same space every day, the fact that they were able to contain it, I think, speaks to the measures that have been implemented to keep everybody safe, and how containment and track and trace is working. So, and they got the show back up in 2.5 weeks. So I think that's fascinating. And I think there's a lot to be learned from what's going on here as we, in the US and on the West End and, everywhere else, try to figure out how to get ourselves back.
Yeah. And we talk about this a lot. How do we keep our artists on stage safe, and the musicians and backstage? And then, of course, there's the big question of, will our audience come back? But I would imagine, and tell me, because Sharon and I talked about this a little bit, but you must feel pretty confident that the people you're going to walk around and see are safe, because everyone's going through this, like, these very restrictive measures. So that, well, they're getting checked, and this is getting checked. Do you feel safer there than here? Oh,
yeah. I mean, the second I stepped off the plane, I was like, like, thank goodness. Because, I mean, if you just think about it, like, 289 deaths, like, is horrible, but it's a totally different world. And I think that the people who are going to the theater, yes, of course, nothing is zero risk. So they're taking a risk, but at this point, it's a calculated risk that there's enough there are enough safety measures in place that it's not like, reopening schools in Arizona. There's been a lot of thought put into this. And I think that, I'll be in a lot of rehearsal rooms and in a lot of tech processes and things like that. And I'm personally not concerned. And I think part of what it comes down to for me is I just became part of this think tank that Matt Ross runs called the COVID Theater Think Tank. That's a group of, theater people who are coming together trying to figure out, and talking to doctors, talking to scientists about solutions for Broadway. And one of the things that the doctors have repeatedly told Matt that he sort of uses as a mantra for this think tank is that it's going to be a cocktail of solutions. Like, it's not going to be like, aha, the vaccine has arrived, theater can restart tomorrow. Like, the science just isn't that simple. And so it's going to take, the self-cleaning door handles. It's going to take the contactless thermometers. It's going to take all of these things to get us up and running again. So I think that in a way, it's like, how fast can we get this information? How fast can we relay this information in a way that's palatable for people, in a way that makes people want to come back to the theater, makes them feel safe about coming back to the theater?
It's like everything else. It's communication. It's having what we need to have to keep people safe, and then to let them know that it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me. My eyes may have darted because I was off on another tab Googling, because you said 280 deaths or whatever it was, and you breathed a sigh of relief. There are 50 million people, 51 million people in South Korea. 280.
Yeah, it's not like some island in the middle of the ocean. It's like, it's impressive, So I think, and I'm not a public health expert at all, but I'm trying to learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can, as many of us are, to try to figure out how to be useful. Because I think I was, I was sitting in my apartment in New York being like, I've never felt more useless. And so this project that I'm, working on with many others, my wonderful mother included, is aimed at sort of aiding in that communication.
Well, your research and investigation over there into what they're doing is really great. I have a feeling it's going to help a lot of us over here. So let's switch gears a little bit. You're going to speak at my conference this year, which I'm very excited about. And you're going to be on a panel about creating theater in a new world. So what I love about you and your mind, and for those of you who don't know, I'll just tell the story that I tell all the time, which is that Sammi, I first was aware, I second was aware of Sammi when I wrote a blog about her and a production of Violet that she did immersively on a bus while you were at Stanford, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just amazed. And I wrote this blog, and Mary's going to dig it up right now and stop playing over there, whatever she's doing on her phone. And she's going to she doesn't even know what Tetris is. That's what's really funny. She's like, Tetris? What the hell is Tetris? Mario Kart.
Very good.
Anyway, I wrote this blog back in 2013 or something about this production, saying I believe this is the new generation of theater makers. And then come to find out, here you are. We're talking. You're in Korea. You're going to direct Joy for me, which I'm very excited about. So obviously, look, this affects all theater makers and all of us in a different way. And this is what you're going to speak about on this panel. But give me a little. How are you feeling right now, your creative energy, and how all of this is going to change how you make theater in the future?
I think, I mean, I think like many of us, my brain was sort of like all over the place for the last 100 days. I mean, initially, it was so funny because I felt like when it hit initially, I was like, oh, thank God, like I've been so burned out. like it just, this is like, whew. I can catch up on all my emails, I mean, obviously not thank God because people were dying, but I think, from a trying to reconcile the time, I was like, okay, this time is a healthy thing. And then, I think we all sort of hit a slump at some point. Everybody hit it at a different point. And I guess for me, the moment where I decided to like look beyond theater, which is something that I've resisted doing for a long time, was sort of the moment where I started feeling better. And it actually, ironically, brought me back to theater. And I think that to me, my friends who are doing things that aren't directly related to theater right now fully intend to come back to theater. And I think that it's exciting to think about what everybody's going to bring back with them if, we do survive in a massive enough way for all of us to come back full force. And I think that, for me, that's been mostly TV and film work and sort of like learning about those worlds and working on various projects in those worlds. But I have a friend who is like moving to Estonia for 6 months, and I just think
to do what?
Sorry?
To do something specific or just to get the heck out of Dodge?
Apparently Estonia has like a visa program that like if you have a remote job, you can get a free visa. I hope I'm not misquoting this, but like you can get a free visa for a year to go live in Estonia. And I was like, cool. I mean, it just feels like the spontaneity of that I think a lot of us are arriving at. I guess at least for me, it was brought about by the impending, end of PUA or whatever we're calling it, PUA, the unemployment money. And I was like, oh, like I can't actually just sit in my apartment anymore. I have to do something, because I'd been like, oh, this is like self-enrichment time. I'm gonna like go read these books I always wanted to read, or watch these movies, or prep these shows, or whatever. But at a certain point, that's unsustainable financially and mentally. So,
and this project was somewhat self-initiated, right? You kicked it off. You had an idea and you were like, I'm just going to email some people about it and see what I can stir up. And the next thing you know, someone's flying you to Korea. Right?
Basically, yeah. I mean, it all came about because I was FaceTiming with a friend who's working on a production here. And she was like, I'm going to Korea. And I was like, why are you going to Korea? And then I was like, can I come? And then it as you say, it turned into a lot of emails, and some amazing supporters came on board, and we have some, awesome partnerships. So I think that in a way it's like, it's hard to make your own destiny right now. And I got lucky in many ways that this fell into place, and it was through, the efforts of a lot of people that it fell into place. But I do take the lesson from that, one day I was sitting in my apartment really upset, and the next day I was like, I'm going to try something.
And it's because of just like 3 words. Can I come? You just asked a question, and you probably didn't even think if you were serious. Like, yeah, I'm just going to say, like, hey, can I come? And they were like, okay. And you were like, could I come? Yes, I could come. This is what I love about you and so many people out there. And I urge everyone listening to really heed this advice from Sammi here about what I call what she did, serving the tennis ball. I think it's entrepreneurs' responsibility. It's theater makers' responsibility. It's anyone who wants to control their own destiny. You have to start the game. You serve the tennis ball. And if someone doesn't hit it back, you just serve it again until someone does. And what you've done, Sammi, is you serve the tennis ball. You're in Korea. You're quarantined. And you're hazmat suit lady, like taking your temperature. But you're also, like, you're doing something that is going to be very educational, enriching for you and for a whole lot of people, because you're going to help us understand what they're doing over there. So I'm very thankful you're going through that over there. And I can't wait to see what you and your beloved mom cook up.
Well, thank you. And I mean, it's the admiration in that regard is so mutual. And I think, you know, I've watched a lot of these live streams, you know, over the course of the lockdown, because I think it's so helpful to see how other artists are approaching this time, you know, because it's like, of course we can all go, you know, listen to your podcast from before this started, or we can go watch movies from before this started. But in addition to having like live conversations with friends, I'm just like, I'm so hungry for information about how our community is rolling with the punches and what we're going to look like when we come out of this. And, you know, so it's a privilege to be on the front lines here, and I'm grateful, and, you know, all the things.
Well, we all look forward to hearing the after when you get back. And by the way, you're going to have to quarantine over here too. So get ready for that. So we know hazmat lady though. Just fill out a number 2 pencil and fill out a form and, like, you know. We'll
I know.
Watch Netflix.
Won't be as buttoned up, but you know, maybe by then it'll be better.
Thank you so much for being here. Be safe over there. Have fun. Enjoy the theater. Take lots of pictures. I'm jealous. You get to go see Phantom of the Opera.
I will, and we'll be able to say what we're doing hopefully soon. I just, you know, because I want to share it, you know, and appreciate the opportunity to talk about it coyly.
We'll hear all about it when you speak at the conference this fall. So, and as Barbara says, you're a brilliant light. Thanks for being here,
Barbara. That's so lovely.
Sammi Cannold, everybody. Fantastic director. And I did not know she was going to say that about can I come? It's that simple that you can change your own destiny. She changed her life. She changed her life with 3 words. Can I come? Otherwise, she'd be sitting here miserable, because she's a good part of her generation, and that she would actually be not out at a frat party or a sorority party or something. She'd actually be inside or outside with a mask on. And she will now have an experience that will help a whole bunch of other people and will enrich her life. And someday, I bet, like 10 years from now, she'll find herself in a room and she'll realize, oh, I just did this thing. I learned this thing, and this thing is a success because I went to Korea 10 years ago. That's what happens. So ask a question like that tomorrow when you're figuring out what the heck you're going to do here. Ask a question. And you know what? Whatever you ask, it's possible if you want it. So we'll wrap up there. Thanks so much for being here for this very special episode of the Producer's Perspective Live. We go back to our normal schedule. Oh, Kathy Horgan says, can't wait to be let in on the secret. Big secret. We go back to our regular schedule this Tuesday. We've got a bunch of hunks joining us on the show, like 3 in a row. Stephen Pasquale next week on Tuesday. And I think after that, Norm Lewis. I mean, it's like all my man crushers are joining us for like the month of hot July and August. So join us on Tuesday for Stephen, Bridges of Madison County, American Son, a whole bunch of other things, TV star as well. We'll see him on Tuesday. Join us for that. Don't forget about the Actors Fund. Please donate if you're enjoying these. If you find yourself wonderfully motivated, McKenna, my daughter's name is McKenna. If you find yourself wonderfully motivated, please do help out. Throw some bucks into the till for the Actors Fund. Sammi mentioned PUA, the unemployment benefits, which may be running out, which means a whole bunch of artists are going to need your help in being able to stay here and to continue making art. We don't want to lose them, so please do what you can to help. Don't forget, if this conversation, if you found this conversation interesting, and it's such an ugly domain, you have to copy and paste it. If you found this conversation interesting, go to this website right now. Don't try to type it in manually. Go to this website right now. This is this 3-part video series that, Mary, put it back in the bottom of the comments. I can't figure it out. If this interests you, safety, and we mentioned this woman named Sharon Cassif a few times, who works for the Really Useful Group. Really Useful Group is actually the company that I do some work for. It's Andrew Lloyd Webber's organization. They are producing that Phantom over there, so they know all about this. I got Sharon on a video to talk about this for about good 20 minutes about what they did in her experience in getting Phantom back up in the apex of it in Korea. So go check that out. You're going to jump in about the third video of this 3-part series, so the communication may seem a little wacko, but just do it. It's worth it, and you can go back and watch the other ones. But because the safety video, I think it may drop tomorrow. So go check that out. I think you'll really enjoy it, especially if you enjoyed this one. Lastly, it's Thursday, but Mary still found you something to make you smile. And you know who always makes me smile, and we should get on this dang live stream, is Shoshana Bean, Mary. We should get Shoshana on this live stream. All right, Mary just gave us the thumbs up. She's going to do that. And if she doesn't, we'll take her to task. Anyway, Shoshana, in her very generous way, held a benefit, a virtual benefit for I think it's Beaverton High School's theater department. And she did this benefit at the beginning. She got all these alphabas to do Defying Gravity. That's right. You don't need to go to Wicked to see one alphaba. You can see 17 alphabas on the internet. The producersperspective.com/smile is where that video is. Go check it out. It was posted 3 days ago, and it's got 41,000 views already. So, in other words, there's some serious belting going on. Go check it out. It'll make you smile. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you Tuesday with Stephen Pasquale. Stay safe, everybody, because we're not in Korea.
Getting the band back together.